Welcome to SerialPodcastNine.
Happy birthday, Gerard.
Happy birthday, Gerard. Let's start the podcast, Gerard.
I'm Gerard DiFralta.
And I'm Kevin Peterson.
And I'm Ryan Benoit, and this is SerialPodcastNine. First of the new year, episode 36.
Oh, 36.
Yeah, man.
First of the new year.
Look at me keeping tabs on things this time around. It's real great. We're doing it.
Are we doing more questions? I feel like we should try to come up with a subject almost,
There is a subject that snuck into this one, so don't worry. We got that.
All right. Well,
I don't think these questions will take very long, so I planned it out in my head today, Kevin, just so you know.
Yeah.
I was really trying. So we'll do questions. We'll do this like a real podcast. We'll do questions, and then we'll get to the topic. But I'm gonna turn one of the questions that someone wrote into a topic that I want to talk about. So, Okay, let's do some questions because otherwise I lose track of the questions and it's difficult. Flockadile Dundee, aka Osaka Flocka, has asked a question before and asked another question, which is amazing. So, and I should say that's the Instagram username. I don't know if I did that. I don't think that's his legally given name. Anyway, okay.
I wouldn't think so.
What if it was? All right. Okay. So he says, what is your holy grail part? The part you list after the most?
Lust after the most.
Lust after, but yeah.
Yeah, he wrote lists. And then I was like, maybe you're listful for it. And then I was like, well, it doesn't make sense. Anyway, lust after the most.
Holy grail part?
Yeah.
Obviously, a No Mercy steering wheel.
Yeah. That was my answer.
Yeah.
What is it though? You guys must have one. There must be a part. Like Kevin, I feel like it's a set of wheels.
I don't know. I feel like, I don't know. I was gonna say I feel like I've had most of the things that I've lusted after. The one thing that comes to mind is I had this Gretty Grex shift knob that it's like the tapered barrel. It's super super heavy, and I had that, and it went missing somewhere along the way, and I don't have it anymore. And I kind of lust after that, but I had it. I just wish I had it again,
That actually answers the second part of the question, which because you've mentioned that shift knob before on the podcast.
Yeah.
So we should try to find you that shift knob because it's
Jake brought in these two super hilarious Alibaba $3 knockoffs the other day to the shop.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they're pretty hilarious.
Would you run that instead of a SerialNine shift knob? It seems like this point.
That's the problem. It's I don't think I would, and I wouldn't pay for one, and I wouldn't want people to buy me one as a gift because
you're gonna get 8 in the mail.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, what are you most proud of on your car?
Yeah, on it. One thing I did lust after was that there's a bunch of different Altezza gauge clusters where they have the tack in the middle and it goes up to 9,000.
It's the late model one or whatever.
Yeah, well, they're the Modelista one.
Yeah.
There's a Tom's one, I think, and one other one. Yeah, so those are super cool, but they're $700. So I was it wasn't worth it to me. It wasn't that cool. Coolness for dollar wise, but I always thought that was a really cool thing. One part that I still really want is a Urass drag wing. I've always wanted that. And every time I see one come up for sale, I'm like, oh, I should just buy it. And
then you don't.
But then I don't, yeah.
I'm probably going to talk about my Aristo because I don't really have any cars that, I don't know, that I lust after whatever parts. But I mean, I guess I've kind of always lusted after a JZX 110, a Blit. I always wanted a cool one. And I guess I kind of have that. So that's sort of cool. I mean, it's not as cool as it in the summer. It's not as cool in winter mode as it is in the summer mode, but I mean, that's pretty cool to have a 6-speed JZX 110 Blit. That's, I don't know how many of those there are in the world. One.
That's not a part though.
Yeah.
It's not a part. I mean, it is a part. The car is one part.
The car is one big part.
The car is an assembly of parts.
Yeah. Aren't we just all an amalgamation of moving parts?
I mean, if you're talking about the Aristo, what was I most?
I mean, you know,
the Aristo, the body kit, man. I mean, honestly, when I had the Aristo and with the breed kit, that was sick because I literally sculpted that body kit in my fucking garage. You know what I mean? That was pretty rad. And to see it come into fruition And then to be able to like put all these gangster-esque wheels on this car, like just because we made this cool body kit or this wide body or whatever. Like,
yeah, it's pretty sweet to be able to see all these people like make their own vision of what they want their Aristo or GS to be with those fenders too.
yeah, I always thought like I always thought basically like when I had that car that it looked really sick with the arrow. Like honestly, like I kind of always liked it a lot with the one piece wheels with the
one piece wheels.
Yankees. Like it looked super dope. And like when I had the tons of camber with the Yankees, like and the polished face, like I thought it looked really cool with all the stickers on it. I thought it looked really cool. I really like that look. But yeah, I don't know.
I feel like you answered this question wrong, and that's okay. I'll answer for you. If a car is an amalgamation of all parts, I feel like the thing you lust after the most is a Porsche Taycan. Or have we just like done away with that bit that Gerard likes the Porsche Taycan? Like,
it's pretty sick. I mean,
you can't be proud of that though.
No, but so there's what you lust after, and then what you're proud of. Proud of the Aristo, I get, but then you're like, I lust after this thing that I also have, so that you're not really lusting after the Blit. You own it. So I think,
right.
I think
maybe he's in lust with it right now. Like, you know,
is he?
I mean, I mean that's not true. I don't really love that car. You know what I mean? So no. I think it's cool because I've always wanted one, and now that I have it, it's pretty sick. But like, it ain't no Taycan.
Yeah, the thing that you lust after the most is a Taycan. That is your measuring stick, I think, for like a lot of things. Driving experience.
As far as a car goes, yeah.
All right, that's fine. I think that is a valid answer for anyone who's ever listened to more than one episode of this podcast. They'd be like, yeah, that motherfucker loves a Taycan. I don't know if I have a real answer for this. I try not to want for things that I can't have. I think it would be cool just to do like a big turbo on my car, like big single at some point.
Yeah.
But that's
you need 700 horse. You need.
Yeah.
I mean, can I answer that? Can I answer that question again? Like the thing that I was most proud of was my Aristo when it was done. Like when it was done, I was like, finally, like, you know, after it had the 600 horse and like the 60 tires and like, you know, and like I actually drifted it for that year and a half solid or whatever, and like I was comfortable driving it. I was like really proud of that car because I mean I know I say I don't like that car and like I don't really like that car, but after a while, like finally after it was all done, I finally liked the car, you know what I mean? So I was like really stoked and like for that small window of year and a bit when I drove it and like I took it to Wickfest and I won and all that shit, like I was proud of that car. Like it took a long fucking time to get to that spot and it was a lot of work, but I was proud of it.
That's really good. That's a nice answer, Gerard. I'm glad that you got that. I'm going to change. I don't have a real answer. I wanted the SerialNine steering wheel really bad, and then you guys were nice enough to gift it to me for Christmas, which was amazing. So good. And I want a big turbo. And I like the way that the Aristo is now, I think, like the version of my car. My Aristo, not Gerard's. I don't like how Gerard's Aristo is now because it's just a trash can somewhere. All right. Okay.
It's on its way to be new things, you know?
Yeah. Recycle.
Circle of life.
Recycle. Oh, man. Cedric wrote us a question.
Oh, shit.
Oh, man. And I think he was like, I'm going to troll Kevin and Gerard a bit. Not originally, but okay. He's got a pod question. He said, I've got a SerialPodcastNine question. So 1, what does drifting mean to you guys? Not sure if this has been answered. There's been too many episodes to remember. And I think that's fair. I don't know if we've answered it. And then I can do the follow-up question. What does drifting mean to you? I think that this is like spirit of this season.
That's like too deep, you know? I don't know. Like drifting is like a fun activity that I enjoy doing. You know, that's what it means to me. Like, you know.
You really waxed poetically about the thing that you spend most of your money on. Yeah, I mean, it's fun and I do that. And I've dedicated a large portion of my life to it.
Well, I mean, I took a huge hiatus from it. I have gone back to it. And I feel that like on the podcast, I have talked about how it's like, it is pretty ridiculous, and it is super expensive, and it is like, like sometimes
do
you're just sitting there and you're like, yeah, like I'm going through this ridiculous amount of tires, and
Did you do it? You continually do it.
I haven't done it in a while. I'm getting itchy. I want to do it
Yeah. See, so why do you want to do it again?
because it's super fun.
Oh,
It is
good.
pretty fun. Yeah, I haven't drifted in a really long time until basically the other night. And when we were first tandeming with Marcus, I was just like, dude, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, man. Like I was like, it's icy, it's going fast. Like my car has a lot of grip in the snow, and I'm like, okay, yeah, this is a really good idea for your street car. That like basically it's kind of like your only car except for the truck that like you shouldn't really drive all the time. So yeah, you should totally take this and stick it in third and like bounce it off the limiter near curves in the snow and on ice. That's a really good idea. And then of course you do it because
But then 10 seconds later you're having fun.
yeah,
It doesn't
that's the
matter.
thing about drifting, man. I remember the one time when I finished painting my X8. So, I had this piece of shit X8. That's what I learned to drift on. And then I did a body swap or a shell swap, I guess, if you will. And that's when I first painted the X8 yellow. And I was like, everyone's like, oh man, like it's so nice and stuff now. Like, you're not going to want to drift it. And I was just like, yeah, you're probably right. Like, but the second I hopped behind the wheel, man, and like heard the 1J and like dumped the clutch and like got a little bit sideways, and you get that kind of like, oh shit, yeah, like, you know what I mean? You get this like feeling of euphoria when the car is going sideways and you're in control of that like amount of power. And I don't know, it's just fully sick. Like,
yeah, I feel like I've dedicated a lot of my life to trying to answer this question in writing. So it's pretty hard to like stop and say like, oh yeah, I'll put it into 3 sentences, but I'll be damned if I don't try right now. I think drifting, what does it mean to me? I think to me, drifting is the best part of automotive culture that you can be into. I think like if you're into cars and you're into drifting, it's like one of the better worlds. And someone can correct me and be mad, but I feel like the camaraderie and the community based around drifting is the best. So that's like, if I was into car shows, I feel like car shows have like sometimes get weirdly political. And I just read the Wakefest article on Texas, and people were not happy about it. And you
what Joey was saying?
Yeah, man, people weren't happy.
I was gonna say I spoke to him a bit because I mentioned that in one of my podcasts. I said, yeah, like build better fucking JZXs. It was a similar sort of vibe. Like, it's not like I was shit talking to people. I was just kind of like, I know you guys can do better, and I feel like that's sort of the same thing. And but people took it the wrong way. So
and so you get that, and you get dudes at car shows like, it's like just this like, how much money can I spend to make this be a thing, and here's my part list, and award me an award, and I can tell people that I won. And then all the other things seem very competitive, but like, I mean, realistically, the most fun I've had with drifting is just at events where you're like, your friends are out there like having fun, and it's like everyone's supporting each other. Yeah, it is very funny because I'm very close to drifting, and I don't drift really I don't drift at all, but I feel like I've been around it for such a long time that it has had a large impact on my life. And so
when you kicked the 400 sideways the other night, I was like, yeah, Ryan's drifting. And I was like, and I'm in my head, I'm like, he knows how to drift, right?
Yeah, you were also worried if I knew how to drive on ice. And I was like, okay.
Well, I wasn't worried. I was briefly kind of like, oh, I should tell him that it's icy. And then I'm like, wait a second, the guy's from Saskatchewan. Like, clearly he knows how to drive in the snow.
So that, I like drifting. To me, just it's the best version of what you can get. And I don't know, maybe Time Attack's really fucking cool. I don't know, but like, I feel like you put that together with like the smoke and the noise and just, I don't know.
Drifting seems more chill. It's like more like a release. Like, if you're doing like a Time Attack, it's like 110% focus. Like, you're just, but like, I feel like drifting, you could definitely like totally screw up, and it doesn't really matter, and you're still gonna have fun.
Yeah, it doesn't ruin your day unless you wreck your car.
Yeah.
You know, like it's like, oh man, I didn't like that corner. It's not like, well, no, you're out of the race and you can't keep driving. And you're like, oh fuck, good.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I feel like that's probably, you know, you probably hit the nail on the head there, because one of the biggest reasons people are so into drifting is because it's like a freestyle sport. You know what I mean? Whereas like a lot of sports are very regulated, like time attack, you're regulated, like other forms of motorsports, like there are classes and there are rules and there are this and that. And I mean, there aren't really rules with drifting, man, especially like at a grassroots level. You just build whatever ridiculous, stupid, cool, fast, stylish, ugly car you want, and you go and drift it. And like, you know, some people will be like, yo, that sucks. Or some people will be like, yeah, that thing's cool. But like at the end of the day, man, you're still driving it. You still drive with friend A and friend B that you went there with, or you probably end up driving with other dudes. And like, nobody's really making fun of you. Nobody's really like, you know, it's just super chill. I think.
They might be making fun of you, but who knows? No, I was going to say, I think the way I can best describe this is at the gala this year when I had the Aristo out on track after, and then Carter drifted it. But then Stu was like, my favorite part was like, he said something, it was like, you took your Aristo out. And I thought that was really cool. I'm like, yeah, man, I did like fucking sucked. I couldn't do anything. He's like, doesn't matter. It was like one of my favorite things I saw that day. And I was like, oh, well, that's a really like nice thing. If you were at a time attack and you went out and you didn't hit like you didn't hit your corners properly, or you weren't like, someone wouldn't be like, wow, that was really nice that you like wasted everybody's time.
you took your daily driver out there and tried. Yeah.
They wouldn't
nice
be like,
try,
oh,
guys.
Nice try. You know, they'd be like, get the fuck out of here. I assume, maybe not, but I
don't know. Maybe if it's a private track day for like your buddies to do time attack, they'd all be like cheering you on in your minivan, you know?
Yeah, maybe. We should say that it may even be specific to the type of drifting that we dedicate most of our time to, which is like the grassroots, like chill shit. Because like comp drifting is different.
Yeah, I think competition drifting is its own.
Oh, one other thing about drifting that's kind of cool is like Gerard was saying, is like you have like a crazy mix of vehicles. Like, like if you're going into like time attack or like where you know, obviously spec racing, it's all the same. But like even any of that other like lapping day style, like I don't think you're gonna have the like mix of vehicles and types and swaps and stuff that you would have at a drift event.
Exactly. And then that's the thing too, is like you'd have, like you might see an Aristo or a GS for sure, but it's going to be heavily race oriented. Like it's not just going to be some generic, you know, I mean, maybe at like a track day where, you know, but at the same time, I feel like even at track days, you're probably not going to see like a Mark II Blit or like an Aristo or like, I don't know, like a Chevelle with a 2J or something, you know what I mean? Like you're not going to see those things because they're not really competitive.
The Aristo's not going to compete with.
You're not going to see a Volvo or a pickup truck.
Yeah,
some of those things aren't.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure those things do exist at some track events, but like not really where we're from, and not really.
Yeah, the last thing I'll add about drifting is, from the perspective of what I do of taking photos and everything, it's the most like aesthetically like entertaining thing to watch, you know, like you could watch racing and that's kind of neat, I guess, but like it's been said that drifting is like pretty much every run is the best 30 seconds of any race, right? Like it's like it's just like the overall, it's like loud noises, smoke, more loud noises, like
like
angle.
The limit of like, are they about to crash continuously? You know, like that like when the car is coming around the final corner and they're side by side and they're both like barely hanging on. That's like the most exciting part, and it's almost like taking that and multiplied it across the whole time.
All right, here we go. There's more to this question, so that's nice. That explains why we like it, and that's great. I think we got there. Trucks and trailers, are they needed? Do you need to trailer your car? No. Does it take away from the experience though?
Trailering your car or just driving your car?
Yeah, I'll read the whole question, then you.
Okay, I'm sorry.
About it. No, it's fine. It got a little bit confusing because Cedric spelled "does" wrong every time he wrote it. And I was like, so he spelled
dos.
Dos. Does trailering your car to all events take away from the experience of getting to street drive your drift car to and from the track? Have you ever crashed and had to drive a broken drift car home because you didn't have a trailer? Does having a truck and trailer make you drive harder, knowing if you do break or crash, you still have a way home? Do you drive more conservatively if you drive your car to and from? Do you enjoy street driving your drift car when you can?
There's like 10 questions in one there.
Yeah.
So just wrap it up. Do
I enjoy driving my drift car on the street? Yes. Have I ever trailered my car to an event? No. Have I driven my car multiple hours?
You trailered your car to an event?
Oh, you're right. Yeah, I mean, I went to Chicago. That's true, and I have trailers to Penticton. Okay, yeah,
Penticton and that private drift event in Washington.
Okay, yeah. So
I've known you more to trailer.
I guess, yeah. I've never personally driven that Aristo onto a trailer and towed it, but yes, it has been trailered to events. You're right. Totally right. Yeah, I mean, when I was younger, it was definitely different because I ain't got shit to do. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like all stoked. Like, I can spend the whole night before driving to the event. I don't give a fuck. I got nothing else to do. But like in today's day and age, when like time is absolutely money, and like I got a family and all this stuff, and also like making it home at a certain time, you know, in one piece is important. If I had the choice, and if I had all the time in the world, and like nobody gave a shit if I got home at X time or Y time.
That's a sad story. I'd be real sad for you. Nobody gave a shit when I got home. Just sad drive.
I'd just drive. If it were up to me, man, I'd just drive my cars all the time, everywhere.
Do you think that would affect what you did on the track? And then,
I mean, I'm not the craziest driver, so no. I mean,
how would that have changed at the first gala when you crashed your car? Anything would have changed? I guess it wouldn't.
I mean, that event was so close to home, it wouldn't really matter anyways.
But you also drove there. So like, you know, obviously
I did drive.
It didn't play that big of a role.
Yeah, and then you had to trailer it out of there.
Yeah, I think it was just because it was so close to home. But yeah, if I would have done that in Chicago or something, I would have been like in a world that it would be a lot different. That's for sure.
Yeah, that would have been the end of that.
Yeah, part out my car in Chicago.
Yeah. Kevin, what do you think?
I mean, yeah, Gerard and I used to like always drive to the events and like drive to the events in the States where people would be trailering their car from 20 minutes away from the track or whatever. And yeah, we had driven 2.5 hours. And then like that was I don't know, I liked that. I thought it was kind of like dope. It felt more real or something, you know.
Stakes were higher.
What?
The stakes were higher.
Oh yeah, totally. And it's kind of dope that you can like drive 2.5 hours, then drift all day, and then like drive 2.5 hours back, and like be confident that your car will make it, and that everything's good, and that you can do that, and like it's like pretty.
To bring 2 sets of wheels inside and not be like strapped to the roof or some stupid garbage, or like trailer. You have a little trailer, like, you know, 4 across the back seat or 2 in the trunk and 2 in the back, like. That's why we drive sedans, you know. That
is one thing I will say though, that like that kind of almost becomes like the limiting factor. You could drive 2 cars to an event, but it would be helpful if you also had like a third truck that had all your tires and tools and jack and stuff. Like, so yeah, it's like once
in case you crash.
Well, once you have to bring like, you know, a bunch of drift spares and then tires. Like if you're going for like a weekend event at Villains, and you got to just bring everything you need for like 2.5 days of drifting.
Yeah, and
in your car, it does get a bit much. I would say that it definitely does. I'm so used to driving to the event that it doesn't really change how I drive at the event. Maybe if I have the trailer, I'd be a bit more inclined to let it all hang out. I don't feel that that's so different from how I'd be driving normally. So I'll deal with my car when it's wrecked. Like I'm not going to worry about getting it wrecked before it gets wrecked. You know?
That mentality.
I mean, you've definitely brought a car to an event far away and wrecked it, and then had to bring it home 2 times.
Yeah.
You also trailered a car to an event all the way across the country, and then had to like finish it there, didn't you?
Yeah, I've done that too.
Again, Kevin lives dangerously. It's amazing. It's funny because I keep agreeing with you, and it's like I have an input on this as a guy who drifts, but I don't drift. So, but I've observed things And here's my observation, and you can tell me if I'm way off.
So one last thing that I will say is it is super nice to, at the very end of the drift event, just be like, all I have to do is get that car onto that trailer. That's it. Like, let's strap it down. You're like, you don't have to like change the tires to like good tires. You don't have to like load it all back up and exactly how it was for like the drive home or whatever it was. You'd like just get the car onto the trailer.
Yeah, man. I think I know from what I could tell, to your point earlier, I have drifted in the past. I wasn't great at it. And we drifted 20 minutes outside of Regina. And obviously everyone drove their car there because why wouldn't you? And then when that track went away, it was a kart track in Regina, Saskatchewan, and people wanted to drift elsewhere. It seemed very much like if you're going to start drifting further away, you should have a like a truck and trailer to do it. So now if you're coming from Regina, Saskatchewan and going to Penticton, it might make more sense to tow your car than like driving it through the mountains. So I think there's a ceiling on like how far is too far to drive your track car, you know? And it's like, here to Mission, doable. Here to like Washington, totally agree. Maybe even Portland, okay. But like Wisconsin, probably tricky, you know, like, and I know
Stu did it, and like Dominic did it,
and Jack Connolly did it, and hated it. I've told that story before. He rolled up, and everyone was like, "Yo, this is fucking sick." He's like, "It isn't. It's the dumbest thing I've ever done. Like, this is dumb. Don't ever do it." It like messed up his diff or something, and he had to go get that fixed. And then, like, he said it was so hot driving there, and the tunnel on his transmission wasn't like really set up for it, so it was just like bellowing heat into the cabin of the car.
Yeah, it sounds like just like a poorly set up car.
Yeah, I mean, Jack does what Jack does. He's fine, but you know, like it's also not ideal to like that's not even a fun drive, you know. Like I will say every drive from Vancouver to anywhere is kind of like nice and scenic, but like driving your like drift car like across the plains of Western United States is like not the best.
Through straight prairie land, like the entire way.
Just like and then just the drone of your exhaust, like for like 8 hours a day.
Yeah, that's the other thing too, is like, I mean, obviously I'm older now and this and that, whatever, but like it is nice to just have a vehicle that you sort of hop in and like you're not worried about like, fuck, is that noise? Like, is that my diff? Like, is the tune off? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I remember street tuning the car on the way to a drift event, like shit like that. And it's like, I mean, that's cool when you're like 18, 19, 22, 26, whatever. But like just get your shit together. And then sometimes like it is, like you don't want to have to take your car with like shredded tires to go eat. Or like, if you got a cage, I've never had a cage, but I'm just saying if it's got a cage and it only has 2 seats and you guys want to go, it's like, well, fuck, maybe we're just tired. We're just hungry and like super dirty or super whatever. And you just want to everyone hops in one vehicle that's quiet and just D for done and like go to eat or whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, like it is cool. It's the coolest thing you can do until it goes horribly wrong.
As far as the street go locally, like if I could, I would drive a ridiculous car every single day for sure.
No, I think wouldn't we all kind of want to do that? Like if it just didn't matter, like I
also have another vehicle to drive. So I think if maybe my only car was a ridiculous car, I'd probably be less inclined to do it or to like be into it. But like if you can switch off and just have the choice of like numbing car A and like super exciting car B, like I would, as much as I can, try to drive, exciting car B until I met my limit, and then just was like, give me the truck.
Yeah, that's fair. Agreed. Good. Anyway, good. I think that answers that. I would imagine for some people, it does limit how hard they would drive at the track if they didn't have a trailer there, because it's got to be a constant for some people on the back of their mind. Like, well, if this goes bad and this goes bad, I still have like a 5-hour drive ahead of me that I got to like deal with, unless you're Kevin and you just deal with it when it happens, which I really like that attitude. Like, thinking about failure. You're only going to fail twice.
Well, I mean, you could be prepared. You can have an idea or a plan, but I mean, like, you can't account for all the variables. Like,
do you think that?
Yeah, like, I have crashed and I bent my front wheel, so I've had to take a rear wheel and put it on the front and drive home with no fender because the fender would rub on the wheel because it was too big, but the fender was already fucked up anyway. So then I just like threw the fender in the garbage. And then, I had to drive home like 3 hours from Seattle, basically.
And we drove a car home that was literally fucking bent in half and had to try to cross the border.
A banana, yeah.
Yeah, that was something else.
Do you think that it's like the more you do this, it's like every time you do it, you learn a little bit more? Because it's like the first time you go, you bring like X amount of parts.
I would totally think so. Like, the more you do anything, the more prepared you get.
And then like eventually you get so prepared that you're like, it just makes more sense to put this thing on a fucking trailer and like go. Like, you just kind of like top out of like, well, what parts do I need to bring if it breaks? It's like, I know this chassis is like.
But also it gets to the point where you're like, all right, well, like, I'm just going to do this properly, or like check it all over before I go. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I'm driving my drift car 7 hours to go drift it. I better make sure all the suspension bolts are tight before I go, and the axle bolts are tight, and like go over everything, and like, oh, is there oil in the transmission? And like, or whatever it is. But like that, that sort of stuff goes a long way too,
Fair.
My favorite is when people show up to the drift event and then they start bashing their fenders because like their wheels don't even fucking fit. It's like, all right.
That would be your favorite.
Yeah, you've never put your drift spares on before, right then.
You're like, oh wait, I can't turn my wheel. He asked another question. We won't actually talk about it, but it's pretty funny. I feel like this is where he was actually trolling you guys. And he said, I seen Gerard got a fancy camera for Christmas. You guys should talk about cameras on the podcast. Which is,
I'm down with that. I have no idea about cameras whatsoever.
Kevin just gets up and walks away. He's like, nah, I'm good. Cameras are a pretty like vast and subjective conversation. And I'm not going to drag Kevin into
I feel like that would be a totally fine topic of conversation. It's definitely like leans more towards like what you're interested in, but like everyone's interested in cameras.
Yeah, I think so too. I have no idea about them.
Nor do I. That's why I feel like I'd just be sitting here like listening the whole time.
But then it's just my opinion on which I guess is what this podcast.
No, but I mean we could definitely have a guest or something, some other camera person.
Yeah. Well, let's think about that. Go on, yes,
Gerard. I don't think I have the patience. I don't think I have the patience to do the camera work.
Camera thing.
I love taking pictures, but that's why like I've always just had a Canon because like it was easy and took decent pictures. It didn't take amazing pictures, but like every time like I took a picture, it turned out pretty decent. So I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to use, just Canon. And then the iPhones got super good, and I was just like, why the fuck am I going to get a camera out? I got to fuck with all this ISO and like f-stop stuff, and then like the picture ends up turning out shitty because I don't know what I'm doing. I just click on my iPhone and it looks pretty good. Like,
or that's the other thing. It's like you don't know what you're doing, and then you buy this like $1,200 camera and just set the settings to auto all the time because you don't know what you're doing, and it's like, well then like why do I really have to have this $1,200 camera?
$1,200 camera is not going to do much for you anyway.
All right, sorry. Like
I mean, like an iPhone is
camera I got is worth, honestly, but like
your camera that you got is worth is probably between $1,500 and $2,000 used.
That's pretty sick.
Yeah,
used. That's what it's used. Oh
yeah,
wow.
They don't sell it. I don't know if they sell it new anymore.
Yeah, but
because they're on like 2 generations after that.
Yeah. I did a bunch of research on it after the fact, and it's still like a relevant camera, and people even still to this day were like, "Yo, this camera's still like better than a lot of cameras out there." So pretty stoked on that.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, Gerard got a Sony A7R2. Yeah. So then
with a couple lenses.
He's got a G Master, which is great for you. G Money got a G Master 24-70 2.8, which that is like a pretty solid lens to have in your like arsenal of lenses. And then you had a kit lens, which is whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, it came with it.
16-35, which is all right, but yeah. I quick answer. You got a Sony, and right now I feel like Sony is the right way to go for cameras. Someone will disagree with me. From all the research I did, all the money that Sony put into R&D over the last like 5-6 years, they just like went fucking all out. They were the ones that very much felt like made mirrorless cameras a viable option. And now we're all shooting mirrorless cameras. Well, not all of us. I think some people still shoot on mirror or DSLRs and
DSLRs.
Genuine Sony.
Sony.
900 bucks.
Sony professional.
And then other people shoot film because they're artsy, and that's cool too. A whole other game. I don't know. I went to school for a long time to, I figured this would be like when we were talking about tools. It's like I should get you guys an advent calendar full of camera stuff.
Camera accessories. Yeah.
That'd be sick.
It's just lanyards and memory cards because everything's so fucking expensive. Cameras, I will say, being into cameras and cars, and there is like that crossover, but like you guys are into tools in cars, and the relationship between the two is way more like symbiotic.
It's very intertwined.
But it's having like being into like cameras are so expensive, and then cars are so expensive, and it's very hard to do both unless you're like very well off. I think. It's like, hey, I rent a lot of lenses because I can't afford the lenses that I like to shoot on. So if like someone's like,
that's cool that you can rent lenses.
Yeah. Because like I love shooting on 70-200s, 2.8s with image stabilizers when I'm at the track. And the Sony version of that's like a $3,000 lens.
Oh, nice.
So many car parts. But then when you look at the car parts, you're like, that's a fucking camera lens. So
does someone make adapters so you could like run like a Canon lens on your Sony?
Yeah, you can. Yes. But
you
then
can run like your old generation lenses that you already have.
Yeah.
On newer gen cameras.
Yeah, you can. I never bought it's funny because now the Canon lens that I used to like shooting on is kind of like getting a little bit more affordable, but it doesn't make sense because I don't have a Canon anymore. And then you run that through an adapter, and not all of the adapters are great. Like you're probably always going to be better off running the lens that is meant to go with your camera.
Well, yeah, I mean, that makes the most sense.
I'm sure someone would disagree with me, but I think like there's a bunch of features on the camera that need to talk to each other now. And
yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Like, is it going to be legit when like you run like a Sony camera with like a Canon lens or whatever? So that's not going to work.
Yeah, my buddy used to try to run the Canon lens on his Sony A7R, and he was like, "Yeah, it was fine some of the time." And it was called like the Metabones adapter, and it was fine some of the time, and then sometimes he'd be in the middle of a video shot and it would just turn off and be like, "Nope," and it's like, cool. So I just like blew that shot and then can't get that back. So anyway, cameras are a whole other thing. We can talk about that with someone else. Let's get to the meat and potatoes of everything. So Ben Horsborough, who asked us a question last time, was so happy that he asked another question, and I liked it. So I'm gonna put this out there.
He liked it. He really liked it.
Mike, he likes it. Ben, he likes it. Okay. Hey man, just wanted to he wished us a Merry Christmas from Australia, which is very nice.
That's sick.
He said, "Thank you for answering my question on the podcast. I've got one more for whenever you guys got time."
Sounds good.
He said, and I don't have time now, so let's shut it down. He said, "How do you guys recommend dealing with burnout? I'm a mechanic by trade, and I've been manual swapping my JZS for the past what feels like forever (brackets 6 months or so). After working on cars all day, I just don't feel motivated to work on my own thing at home. More or less, how do you guys still find motivation to keep pushing ahead? Because right now it's a bit hard to find any. Ha 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 ha. Any tips you have would be greatly appreciated." I feel like we've kind of answered this, but then I think this leads into like a better topic. But yeah, go on. How do you stay motivated?
I feel like my situation might be a bit different than a lot of others. Like for me to even just get to work on my car, it's like a pretty big deal just with time management and stuff. So I'm usually like relatively stoked to do it, but at the same time, if I had a bunch of money, I would probably just pay somebody to do whatever it is that my car required so that I could just drive it. Also, as far as the working on cars in the day and then working on cars at night, like I actually was going to be a mechanic at one point in my life. Like I wanted to work at a dealership and be like a top technician at like whatever Mercedes or Lexus or something like that. And then I realized like shit, like I actually really like working on just my own car. I don't really want to work on other people's cars because we used to do labor and stuff too. You know, I had a shop. So my way to not get burnt out was just to pick a different career essentially so that I could just work on cars for my own fun when I want to. But my career still has to do with cars. I just don't work on them. So yeah, I don't know if that's the right kind of answer to tell someone
I think
that's that that's their career. But yeah, that's what I did.
Because Kevin's touched on this before as well. I think where you like Kevin, you once said people would tell you like, why don't you go be a mechanic? And you're always like, no.
Yeah, exactly. The exact reason Gerard said it was like, this is what I'd like to do. It's like I don't want that exact thing that's happening to this exact guy. That was the exact scenario I was trying to avoid.
Right.
But I also do know the burned out thing. It's like, I have a million projects on the go that are all in various stages. And for me, that's almost one way to do it. It's like, well, if I just get sick of working on something, I could just go work on something else. And at least it's different or but you do get to those points where you're just like, man, I just have to get this done. And like, you don't really want to do it. But
do you think, I just thought of this as you were talking, I think a lot of car guys probably come in, like car guys are notoriously bad for always like picking up more projects. It's like, this car is not done and I should get another project, because you get a new project and it's like a new exciting thing.
Yeah, it's fresh and new and different.
And then you're going to put all this time so you're not burnt out on it, and then eventually you get burnt out on that, and then it becomes this like vicious cycle of like, wow, what's the new next exciting thing? And I wonder if that's part of the cycle of abuse.
Will 100,000% agree with that. I am definitely bad at. Man, I got so many projects and I got zero time, but like 4 or 5 different projects, all in the like beginning stages. I mean, that's the thing is like, as far as the Blit goes, I had to basically just force myself to dedicate time to get that thing done so that it would be to a level in which I could actually just A, drive it, and B, enjoy it. Right. Like even putting that seat rail in, man, like I was just like, I just got to get this done. Like, I just like everything else in my life just put on hold, just get the damn seat rail done. Cause like for me to drive that car with a stock seat was absolutely just terrible. So yeah, just force yourself to do it.
Gun to your head, make yourself do it. I don't think it's that easy. Like, I think it's a very, I do feel that most car guys at some point, if they get into the game at the right time, probably for at least a split second in their like earlier days, think like, maybe I should work on cars for a living. Like maybe I should be in the car industry for a living. Like I love cars so much. Why shouldn't I be around it? Like that's what I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
Because I think even like me at one point, I was like, well, it'd be pretty cool to know how to do auto body, but like, would it? I don't know. Like the difference is like, I thought I could paint my car for cheap, not like learn how to paint and like do body work on a car and do like wild shit. But realistically, you get into the day-to-day grind. It's like, well, you're probably just doing insurance claims unless you have like.
Yeah, you're doing like bumper repaints.
Yeah, and it's like, well, that's not really. So the funny thing is that I would say all 3 of us found a way to be around cars without actually making it the crux of like our like existence, right? Like you guys are around cars, but you don't necessarily have to wrench on cars. Like you guys are running a business that sells car parts. It's beneficial for you guys to wrench on your car some of the time, but
yeah, exactly. It's not literally what's paying the bills.
Yeah, and then you're not working on anyone else's car. Well, unless you're doing like R&D and like, and even then, that's not every day. No. And then even then, you guys have employees that can.
Yeah, we have employees that do that now.
You're kind of And then I have nothing to do with the car industry. But so my thing is the reverse, where it's like, I feel like I get burnt out if I'm not around cars. So like if I go a long enough time in my regular life and I don't do car shit, then that causes a sense of burnout, because then I'm not near the thing that I care about doing, and that's tough. So it's actually the opposite for me. Which then,
I mean, one thing that I will say is like if you're coming home every day after work and then it's like after dinner you're gonna go work on your car for a bit, like maybe just pick one small thing. It's like it's got to get done eventually, but like you don't have to, you don't have to do 4 hours after work every day. It's just like, I don't know, maybe one day you're just gonna like clean up the shop or something so that like for the next day it's better. It's like at least you got something done,
yeah.
And or like maybe it has nothing to do like, maybe it has nothing to do with like the whole end goal. It's just something you've been putting off. You're like, oh man, I always wanted to like wrap my chrome trim black. It's like, well, at least, next time you go to work on your car, you're going to be stoked on that. And maybe you're going to like want to get it finished faster.
I agree. I feel like that's kind of how I do things, is like, just pick a small thing and get it done. Like, yeah, I guess perfect example was the seat rail. Like picked up the seat, super stoked. And I mean, the older I get, man, I feel like the more, like, obviously when you're young, you just do whatever you want and everything sort of makes you happy just because you're kind of like, your whole life is just about you. But like when you're older, it's kind of like, there's a lot of shit in your life that like is, responsibility and stress. And it's like, you want to just do the thing that like is going to make you the most happy at that time to like hopefully transition into the next thing that you need to get done to make you happy. So yeah, like perfect example, that seat rail. Like I just wanted a seat for so long and I just had to get in the car. And then finally now, like, I just love driving the car. Like I just love driving that car so much. Even though the car itself hasn't changed, like, you know what I mean? Still does all the same weird shit, but like the actual experience of just even getting in the car is so much better. And like I sit lower, it's a much more sporting position, like all those things. Yeah. Or even something small, like the clutch stop, for example, like you put a clutch stop on the car and it's like, makes driving the car so much better, which then transitions into like you needing to fix the other things because you're now driving the car more. So it's like, yeah, all those little things sort of like segue into each other.
I feel like that is somehow the most insightful and profound thing like that you've ever said on this podcast.
What? Which part?
I don't know, man. Like the whole common theme of what you've kind of been talking about tonight is very funny. It's like I can hear Brandon Flowers in the background singing When You Were Young with the Killers, because it's like you have this thing of like, yeah, when you're young, you just do whatever the fuck you want, and then you get old and like life is like you're doing it, and then you said like do the thing that brings you joy to get you to the next thing that'll bring you joy.
Yeah. Because why the fuck are you into cars in the first place? Is to be joy, to be happy. You know what I mean? That's what makes you happy. Is like what puts a smile on your face is like when you put the car down and the wheels fit sick, or like when you look back at your car and like you're like, man, those late model taillights look fully sick. You know what I mean? Or like whatever it may be, like those LED lights that I put in, that looks so much sicker at night. Or like, that steering wheel or that new turbo sure hits harder. Like, like all those little things.
Gerard's birthday is tomorrow, and the wisdom really hit hard this time. He's fucking coming through.
Yeah, he's giving you guys gifts.
Yeah, he's fucking. Usually, he's just telling everyone he's a drug addict on cars.
Well, he's had his fix, man. He's out drifting in the snow. It's snowing right now. This is the eye of the storm. I mean, it's snowing here right now.
Yeah.
Oh, buddy.
How old are you going to be, Gerard? 45? That's 45, the threshold? Like, that's just when your old man wisdom kicks in?
Oh, no. Apparently.
He's not in that 40. He's not in that 19 to 45 age group anymore.
Yeah, that's right.
Shit. But this goes to a bigger topic, and we've talked about talking about it before. And it was like, so then the question, and this is what I wanted to twist it into, is how do you pursue your passion, and do you make a career out of that? So like pursue your passion and try to make a career out of that, or do you go get a paycheck and keep your hobby and try to earn as much money as you can? How does one make a go out of a passion, which I feel like you guys have. I think that's a fair thing to say. SerialNine, everyone, when I explain it to people, to the normies, it's really fucking confusing. But it's like it works, and it seems very ideal. You've constructed a business where you get to do the things that you like doing, and you kind of get to stay motivated, steer clear of the reeds that Ben's in right now. So, and then is that valuable? Like, or is it better, do you think, just to go make as much fucking money as possible and fund your car habit?
I'm definitely not the guy to ask that. I've never made a lot of money, so this is all I know. I've only ever done my passion, so
right.
It's sort of working out for me. Financially, I would say no, but as far as like being able to enjoy my passion for almost my entire life, yeah, it's worked out. And I mean, the company's growing and stuff, and I feel like financially it'll pay off at some point, but I certainly wasn't making fucking 50, 60, 70 grand, at 30 years old or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Also,
and it's like, one thing I will say is, we have other friends who have other trades, if you will. But it's like, if you're into cars, you kind of know the cars, that you kind of know how to turn the wrenches anyway, just by being into cars,
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, well, if you can do HVAC or you can do plumbing and you're into cars, you're probably gonna have like multiple skills. But if like you're a mechanic and you're into cars, like maybe you're just like a really great mechanic, maybe,
yeah.
And yeah, it's like we have a friend who does HVAC, and like, he's about to do a weekend job and make himself $12,000 cash. Like, it's like, well, like that's not really.
Is that a legal weekend job, or?
I mean, it's probably under the table money, but yeah, it's still a viable option. You could still take that cash and go buy car parts with it.
Cars, yeah, that's a lot of cheddar.
And I think that's what he's gonna do. But like, I don't have a skill set that could probably earn me that much money in that short a time.
No, either do I. It is tricky. I will say this. So I pursued a thing that I was passionate about. I went to film school, and I did that. And I was, that shit where someone tells you, if you work a day, do the thing you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And
yep.
George Lucas has a fucking quote about it. That's really great. But I feel like I did try to do that. But then now I just work at like a tech company. And like I said earlier, I have to sometimes like fight to be around the thing that I really like. And also, it's not like my job makes me rich either, right? So it's like
So you're like in a lose-lose situation.
Well,
you chose like fully the wrong choice.
Well, I mean, like it seemed like the right choice at the beginning because it's like I like movies and cameras and cars, and then my outlet for it has always been like. I mean, the nice thing about it is like doing media. I do that on my terms, and that's nice. No one else is like really controlling that aspect of my life except for me. Gerard sometimes does, but that's fine. But yeah, I guess if you could go, Kevin, you were an arborist before this.
Yeah,
you could have been making some sweet sheds.
I definitely was getting paid pretty well back then. To me, it was like I couldn't take the time off that I wanted to have off. Like I had so much money, but no time to spend it.
Right.
And then
that sounds
also,
like a huge problem.
I mean, I don't know. Like,
it's a problem.
It's somewhat of a problem. It's a problem,
It's not the worst problem.
It's exactly. It's definitely not the worst problem to have, but like when you're just like, there's this thing that like, like this is the only thing that I've like really, really, really wanted to do in the last 6 months or in the next 6 months, and it's just like. You can't get the time off. It's just like nope. And it's like, well, like who the fuck cares how much money I'm earning? Like
yeah.
It's like I can't go and spend a tiny bit of it on the one fucking thing I actually want to do. Like, so that's when I was like, man, if I could just like do my own business, make even the same amount of money I'm making right now, but like be able to be my own boss, then it seemed like a no-brainer.
Now it's interesting because do you have to make more responsible decisions now that you are your own boss?
Oh, totally.
Yeah, like, and then I wonder because like young man Kevin was like, I want all this time off, but then like not old man Kevin, but like
Old man
middle of
This motherfucker's off for an entire month.
yeah.
Just kidding.
But I also watched Kevin be like, I don't know if this is a good idea. Like, like he thought a lot of it seemed like it weighed on you a bit and you had to like make that thing because your presence and the business that you do carries weight. Whereas like when you were cutting trees, you're like, yeah, the tree can wait. And like this, it's no sweat off my back. It's not, the business will still.
Yeah, no, totally. It's like even like after having the business for a year, I felt like I had a much better understanding of all of the stresses and like what my boss was going through on top of what my daily job was there,
Yeah.
that there was no way to really comprehend that until you're doing it for yourself.
You don't regret it ever? Is there ever a point where you're like, man, I wish I still had more money than I know what to do with?
I mean, that would be a fun thing, but also, yeah, like I don't know. There's aspects about the job that I missed, and like to me, like the money part wasn't the biggest part that I missed. So, yeah.
That's good. Good. I mean, it's also a struggle. I'll say this isn't for everyone, but we do live in a very expensive region. So you start talking about how much money.
Speak for yourself, peasant. Just kidding.
Oh, yeah, well.
I mean, no, I mean that is one thing though too. It's like it definitely wasn't all fucking like rose petals along, it wasn't rose petals along the way, and like it feels
lived
like
in the shop for a while.
Yeah, exactly. It feels like Gerard and I are just too stubborn to give up, and like there's a million times where I feel other people would have just been like,
oh,
this is stupid. Like, what are we doing? This isn't gonna work. But like we are just like too stubborn to ever admit that.
Yeah, for sure. Just like, no.
Here's a question then. What is the closest you've ever come to calling it?
That's never happened.
I think that there's definitely like a couple of times we had to talk.
Yeah?
Yeah. I definitely feel like that.
Gerard doesn't remember.
I don't know. Yeah.
Was it? Can you remember what it was? Or you don't have to?
I think it was just like we were struggling for so long.
Yeah. Like we had no employees. Like honestly, like maybe it was like right before. I don't know. Yeah. I definitely remember talking about it a couple of times though, where we were just like, yo, like how much longer do you want to do this? Where we're kind of just like treading water almost, or like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like how much longer do you want to stay at this size before we're just like, it's obviously not going to be something.
And then the business loan comes in, the domino.
Or like, yeah, we got like an employee, like we got a loan, like everything, like
we got the
like mentorship. Or like,
we met Jane. Jane was amazing. Yeah. She's our like business sort of mentor, leader, advisor.
How long into this did it take for that to happen? Like, how long did you do this for?
Like that was like decade in.
Like 10 years in, you're like, should we keep doing this? And then it was like maybe, and then you got all the business bureau shit comes in. And
well, I mean, honestly, that's just like when Gerard and I are having like an actual serious conversation about it between the two of us. Like I'm sure there was tons of times that he thought that, or I thought that, or we both thought that, but we weren't verbalizing it or didn't bring it up, or
yes.
Yeah, I mean, I've personally definitely thought about giving up hundreds of times easily, just because it's like I said, man, I've never been whatever rich or whatever, and I've only ever known this just because it's kind of like what my dad told me to do, just like follow your passion, be a professional, blah blah blah. And so I thought, okay, yeah, for sure, like there's no way I can lose. It's 100% just going to work because my dad said so. Which, for those that don't know, I never really had a dad. That's kind of was like in a letter that he left me. So I just did it blindly because that's literally all I knew. And then after quite some time, I was just like, maybe I should listen to my mom, because my mom was always, university educated, get a good job, like get a high paying job, and then you'll be set, pension and all this stuff. And I'm just like, Mom, I was always kind of like, Mom, like, well, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, you don't know anything about business. You don't know anything about whatever. Like, basically it was just like ABC, go to school, get a good job, make money, and you'll be happy. And it's like, it just didn't really make sense to me. And then, so I only ever knew this. But yeah, many times I was like, this isn't working, right, Gerard? Like, this isn't really cool to have like, $1,000 a paycheck or whatever it is, $500 a paycheck. You're like 35 years old. Like, like, wake up, man. It's not working. So
yeah, I'd say there was like four years or something that we like didn't really get a paycheck. And then there was like 4 years that we were able to take money back out of the company, not in the form of a paycheck, but in the form of money we'd already put into the company on our own right. And then now it's been like the last 4 years has been a paycheck. But even in the beginning, like Gerard said, it was like our first paychecks were like under $1,000.
Yeah, we're making like less than minimum wage.
Yeah, exactly. Like we're like literally like poverty level, like when you go to file your taxes. Like,
right. Yeah, that's wild.
And only in the last 2 years is it like an actual like paycheck.
Yeah. And like, when I tried to buy
and it's
this
still
house,
like not even crazy. It's not even like, it's not like a decent paycheck. It's just a paycheck.
Yeah. And like when I tried to buy this house and like put my name on the mortgage, they're just like, you can't put zeros, man. Like, is this a joke? I was like, what's your income? Yeah. 0. It's like, okay, go get fucked.
But I got a lot of Instagram followers and some sick cars.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's interesting, I guess. Because I guess I would be the other side of that, where it's like I tried to, but it's like the realm that I work in, I get to see people make a lot of money, like tons of money.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get to make the same amount of money. So that is like the level of disconnect. So this thing came to mind, and I guess it runs in line with what Gerard was saying with his old man wisdom today, which is like, you got a family, you got kids. How long do you do a thing for yourself before you start thinking about like, oh man, I need to do things for these other
Well, I mean,
people?
I think it depends on how many responsibilities you have. Like,
yeah,
like if you're not paying the rent because your business isn't working, then like you probably got to figure out that business real quick, or go admit defeat and get a job to pay that rent real quick,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I was fortunate enough to like basically be doing this shit since I was young, and take, the 15,000 years to like kind of get it right before I started my family and got married and stuff. So like if I would have tried to settle down earlier, I would have been like, I would not have SerialNine right now. I would just be like, I don't even know what I'd be doing, man. I'd doing something creative. I'd probably, be designing some sort of shit, but like, it wouldn't be for me. It wouldn't be for SerialNine.
Are we gonna do a Marvel's What If episode of what you guys would do if you didn't work for SerialNine?
Does it have the haze around it the whole way, so it's like a dream or like not reality?
Well, you have the guy that introduces the episode, and he's the watcher, and he can't interfere. I'll be the watcher. Gerard, what would you do if you didn't do this?
I just wanted to design furniture, man.
Ooh.
Furniture is pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, I really like designing things and things that are like aesthetically pleasing. I just wanted to kind of get into furniture. It's a pretty like not sketchy, but like, it's not like easy to just be like, like some like super duper fashion or furniture designer that makes a bunch of money. But I mean, I was pretty close with these guys that used to do art. So like, they weren't the artists, but they were the people that made the art that the artist sort of like commissioned. It's just like, sheet metal type pieces and some, tables and stuff. And like, it was pretty nice stuff that they would produce. but they didn't design any of it. And I was like, well, shit, I could probably just do both. And then I wanted to, design like weird, sort of like cantilever couches and all this stuff that like sort of was like confusing to the eye, where like it only had like 3 legs or some shit like that, but just with like really nice leather and metal. I don't know.
I think SerialNine should make couches.
They all have that gangster lean.
Yeah.
It's like low and lower.
Low, yeah, exactly.
Oh, good. Kevin, what would you do if you weren't doing this?
Probably make like high-end custom cat trees. It seems like cat trees are super expensive and really, really basic.
Yeah, there's so stupid.
Seems like there's a really good market there.
Honestly, you probably can.
Or like like the only other thing that people are more willing to spend money on is like baby stuff. Like maybe we'd like make baby strollers.
Yeah,
that seems really hard though.
Yeah,
I mean that's definitely like a pretty like complicated thing, but like
a lot of regulations.
That's true.
Yeah, you probably just have to make the baby accessories. You can basically pick like a line of strollers and just like accessorize the shit out of it.
They already do that themselves though.
Yeah, but they have to buy the pieces to do it with.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah.
Interesting. Good. Man.
What about you, Ryan?
What would I do?
Yeah, what's your alternate universe?
If I would
what's Bizarro, Ryan?
I would do car media. I mean, that's what I think like it became pretty clear, like a lot of people probably don't know, but I think I've done Dota Logic for 12 years ish. Maybe.
What type of pay cut would you take to do car media?
I don't know. I'd have to like think about it. I don't know.
Yeah, like what if like Motor Trend or Speed Hunters right now was like, hey Ryan, like we want you to work full time for us.
It's a funny thing,
but you got to take a $30,000 pay cut.
Make $30,000 a year. That is a.
Did you just say I make $30,000?
I would make $30,000 a year based on that equation. I'd make $34,000 a year. There was a version of me that would do that for sure. Like sub. So Ryan is 37 now. He'll be 38 in July. Sub 30.
You're talking to yourself in the third person.
Well, it's fucking what if, man. It's what if, and that
do Ryan.
Before June, I would have for sure. Like that would have been the game. And it is very funny because it's like I look back and I think one of my key mistakes that I made is that I never asked anyone. I just thought if I worked really hard at a thing for a long time, that initially, eventually it would turn into a thing. But I never asked anyone. I never emailed Speed Hunters and was like, Speed Hunters, can I be a blah blah blah? Like, how do you apply? I never email. Like, I never.
Unfortunately, like that, you have to do all.
Yeah, and I don't know if you know this about me. Not great at self promotion. So it's like, well, if you put in the work, and then this was like a lesson that I learned later on. Where it's like, like I have a lot of friends and their parents are entrepreneurs. So then they became entrepreneurs and they just very much believe that if you work hard, you'll be rewarded for your efforts. And I'm like, I don't always think that's the case. Cause it's like, look, I could go out every day and dig a hole in my backyard and I could work really hard at digging a hole in my backyard. If I don't have a plan, at the end of the day, I just have a hole in my backyard. It's not like I'm going to be rewarded for this fucking hole in my backyard.
For working so hard to dig that hole.
Yeah. It's like there's a lot of things that come into play when you're doing that. And I just, I've talked to other people about like, oh, like, what do you do on Instagram? And they're like, well, the things that you don't want to do is how you get a bigger audience. And I was like, oh, well, what is that? It's like, you need to tag people in it. Not like your friends, but you need to be like, at Stance Nation in the photo or blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no. I want to be recognized for the work that I do. I don't want to be like annoying someone.
Them sharing it is them, I guess, recognizing the work that you do, but they like won't know about it unless you share it.
Yeah. So, but that was the thing. I was under the misguided perception that if I just like put the work in, eventually someone would notice. Which isn't the case. And I think that's a hard thing for. I'm sure a lot of people don't do that, but I think there are people that do that. You know,
I would think I would think there's probably equal amount of people doing it. Like there's tons of people who just like litter their fucking Hyundai Tiburon photo with like 9,000 tags, and it's just like that's the other end of the extreme where it's just like they're spamming everybody and don't have anything to show for it. And you don't want to be that guy, but you actually have something to show for it, but you're way too humble.
Need to be that guy.
Yeah, exactly,
that's the thing. It's like you're like, well, I don't want to be that version of what I do.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do the off.
But you have to be some version of
that. You gotta be willing to go out and like actually like toot your own horn.
That's like the guy who never gets a date, but he's never asked a girl out. He's just like
exactly. Wow, wow. I never really knew how you would like break into that industry, especially as like a Canadian. I thought it would be pretty difficult, especially as a Canadian that lived in Regina, Saskatchewan.
Yeah, exactly. Like those guys all live in like Cali and all that stuff. Like you were saying before too, like how much do you think like the geography would have an impact on, say, even like SerialNine and that type of shit? And it's like probably pretty big, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you were 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah, people come out to visit us now. Like imagine if we were in Cali, you know, how many people would be coming out to visit?
It would be totally different, and you'd have
it may or may not be a totally different company too, though, right? Like we are who we are, maybe because of where we live.
Yeah, that's true. Like we wouldn't have a 110 and all access.
Yeah,
you might have so much money you wouldn't know. Like who knows?
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe you'd be a hoonigan, or maybe you'd be like.
Maybe you'd have a Taycan.
Whew.
Whew.
Yeah.
As the world turns.
Got my eyes on that Rivian now, though.
Oh yeah, fuck. You got to drive one first before you go.
That's true, but I mean, if it provides acceleration similar to the Taycan, yet it can go off-roading, so let's kill two birds with one stone. Get rid of the truck and be like, got this super fast off-road truck.
I guess. So if you could go back and change anything, would you change anything? What would you do differently?
Me or Kevin or both?
Either both of you are gonna.
I mean, that feels really easy now because it feels like all of the ideas that we had. Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Hindsight's 2020, and like you could just make all the correct decisions earlier, you know, or not make the wrong ones.
So now here's a question. You can gatekeep this information so no one ever goes out of there. So you can't like help people that are coming up behind you, or you can share what you would do differently, but potentially create competition.
I would probably anyway. I was gonna say I'd probably like buy all these wheels and then store them somewhere. And then I was like, you know what I would do? Actually, I'd buy warehouse space so that I could store all my stuff. And then like, wait a minute, I would just buy real estate earlier and then, you know.
Buy Bitcoin.
Yeah, exactly.
Literally.
I didn't ask what you could do if you would time travel. I meant like.
Oh, what was the question?
Yeah, I thought that was basically the question, wasn't it?
Yeah,
like,
well, okay.
If you're Biff from, you know.
That is a fun question that I ask usually people at work. I'm always like, if you could time travel to any period in time that you have to leave today with the knowledge that you have, where would you go and why? And then you get that type of conversation. You're like, well, I just go invest in Bitcoin. It's like, yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah. The question is, what would you do differently now? Like you've put in this 10 years, trials, tribulations, you've got the come up. What do you do differently? What would you have done differently for the business, not like fucking carrying around a sports almanac in a DeLorean?
I would have got help way sooner, man. I'm a stubborn motherfucker. And I always just thought I knew best and I knew how to do it. And, you know, it took the realization of like, yo, you actually don't have a fucking clue what you're doing. And like, you should probably get some help or you're surely going to fail. So I probably would have just maybe got that help sooner.
Yeah. Like I said, like getting an employee was like a game changer for us. It just allowed us to get so much more done and like have
Yeah.
another person with another set of ideas, to help us
Yeah.
along the way.
Yeah.
And then also this is one thing I wonder about sometimes. I'm like, in the beginning we did spend a lot of time doing labor and not advancing the actual company. But I'm wondering if that was like a necessity. Like, even if we were doing the parts full time, like maybe we wouldn't have sold enough to be paying the rent and stuff. But
At the same time, the labor gained us, notoriety because we did like JJ's car, which was like SEMA car, like a couple times.
yeah, I don't know that
Um,
notoriety like directly translates into the part sales in any way though. But
No, not the sales, but I feel like as far as legitimacy as a company, like, you know what I mean? Like you're still attached to those.
yeah,
Maybe not even those SEMA cars, but cars that locally we were kind of known for that type of stuff. But
you were it was like someone with a high caliber car would then be like, yes, SerialNine did this. Well, where do you go to get that done? And it's like SerialNine. That's the no press, that was good press, like good PR through someone that was like making waves. So then, Gerard, do you think that the reason I'm asking this is because I think I still suffer from this, because I agree with you. It's like I get stubborn and think I know the answer, and then I have to constantly remind myself that I don't know the answer. I probably don't know, and then I have to like ask people. Do you find that? Do you find that are there things that you still have to remind yourself, or do you think you're past that? Are you back on to being like stubborn Gerard, or have you grown as an individual to know when to ask for help?
I think I've definitely grown as an individual and know when I have to ask for help. I'm definitely not as smart as I think I am as far as like everything. It's not bad to ask for help. I think maybe that might have even been a challenge in the first couple of years, was like, if I ask for help, then it's a fail. It's almost like I'm failing.
Yeah.
When realistically, you're kind of not failing.
But also sometimes like it's also about like, the right person giving you the help. Like, yeah, you have to be able to receive that help, but also like they could, you could be like, oh, how do I climb up this mountain? And they're just like, why would you ever climb up that mountain? That's a stupid idea. Why would you climb that mountain? You're like, well, I'm asking you how to climb the mountain, not whether or not I should climb the mountain,
We definitely got a lot of that.
Tony,
I wouldn't say a lot of it, but yeah, definitely some.
Yeah,
go on, sorry.
No, I said there were definitely people that were just like, we ask them for advice or help, and they're just like, "What is it that you want to do?" Yeah, that's pretty stupid. Don't bother. That's 100% going to fail.
And and that's where the stubbornness comes in. But then it's like, that's why I'm like, that's why I feel like it has to be the right person.
Yeah,
somewhat.
How do you find the right person? How do you know?
Yeah.
Like, how did you know when you found the right person that you're like, that's the person I'm going to take help from?
Okay, first of all, because it was with the BDC, they were the ones giving us money, and that's what they do, is they give people money. So it's like,
Well, basically they were just like, yeah, here's this like strategic planning course, and this is going to be your like liaison. And then we were just like, oh, we started working with her, and we're like, oh, this is like an amazing fit. And like every time we meet, we just like have accomplished so much and like get so more pumped for what we want to do the next time. So I mean, honestly, like it was unfortunately it's sort of just like a chance encounter, if you will, but happened to be a really good fit.
Yeah, how did that happen? How did you know that you're like, we're going to go to the BDC? Like what?
We needed money, man. We needed money.
And you just
we needed like operating
how do
loan.
I get money for this? Or like, what did
Sorry?
How did you get to that point? Because like,
well, we had already known about their existence because we had gone to them with a business plan before. And they were like, yeah, this is like pretty comprehensive and pretty good and blah, 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 blah. And then we just reached out, and then our contact with the BDC was like really good, and he kept following up and being like, hey, like, do you have your financial reports done yet, like that, so I can hand them in, like, have you
he
filled
was
out that
rad.
form yet? Yeah, like honestly, like
So
if he
rad.
if he wouldn't have been trying to help us get it all done, or like, yeah, it wouldn't have happened. So
Yeah. Shout out to him. He was the
Shout out
best.
to that guy. Now
Yeah.
people have sick cars because that guy was like unrelenting. It's like, that's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Because I get Gerard's point. Like, I feel like sometimes if you ask a question, if the answer or the idea doesn't come from you, it feels a little bit like it's not your work, and then it feels a little bit like a failing.
Yeah.
Younger me for sure had that issue. Older me likes collaboration.
Maybe that has something to do with getting older too, because now it's like, now you see a 20-year-old dude and you're just like, oh man, like I can see all the ways in which I was like that, and I've matured since then. And it's like, maybe that 20-year-old dude wouldn't be willing to listen to these people's advice,
Yeah.
But also, like
100%.
when they tell you, when you're like, hey, I have these 10 problems, and they're like, well, actually that's like 2 problems, all 10 of those are like fit into 2 different categories, and this is what you could just do to like try and mitigate those problems. And then you go do it, and within a month you've like resolved this issue that's been plaguing you for a long time. You're like, holy shit, like,
Yeah.
maybe this person knows what they're talking about, even though they have never ever dealt with any car parts in their entire life.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
guess
I
if
mean,
they
that
would've
was
fucked that up. You would have been like,
that was the thing in the beginning too. I was just like, I wouldn't take advice from anyone, because I was just like, man, what the fuck do you know, man? You like sell control valves or some shit for like I don't know, hydraulics. And it's like, you have no idea about my business, man. You don't know. And it's like, at the end of the day, man, sales is fucking sales. Manufacturing is manufacturing. And like, yeah, maybe you work with aluminum and steel, and like, I mean, every part in the world has a drawing or a solid model. Every part in the world gets manufactured in some way or another, and every part in the world gets distributed in some way or another. So, and then marketed. So like, it's all the same stuff, man. Like, there are different sets of challenges and everything with each different business, but like, they're all relatively similar.
Well, that's insightful and helpful for anyone that wants to know how to follow their passion and maybe make a go of it.
That's all there is to say about that.
So I guess the harder road, I think, is to follow your passion and make a go of it.
I would say so.
I would say so, yeah.
And to add, okay, I'll just keep going here. Or obviously, like we've already discussed how, like, there's big sacrifices involved in basically like, following your passion or whatnot. So yeah, at some points in my life, I basically had nothing, like not even a car. And so, yeah, maybe financially I'm not like, balling, but at the same time, people can be like, yo, man, this guy has like a Stagia and a Blit and like a QX and like, all the brand new parts from SerialNine are like on his car, and like he can take days off whenever he kind of needs to, and they just go drifting all the time. Or like, one man's poor is another man's rich, right? So I'm very rich in like experience and like all those type of things. But yeah, I mean, if I want to go buy a Huracan tomorrow, it's probably not going to happen. But I got a lot of other cool cars and cool parts, cool wheels.
Take that, Huracan.
Yeah, but I mean, also, if you like think about all of the people on the earth, like there's a very, 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 very small amount of people who could afford that Huracan,
Yeah.
And you're probably closer to it than most.
Because, I mean, I can't complain.
Because you can even name the car. I could ask people to point at a Lamborghini and be like, I think it's a Lamborghini.
You know it when it's a Lamborghini, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, but then I mean, I'm sure I know people that would look at a McLaren and be like, "Is that a Lamborghini?" And be like, "No."
But at the same time too, like the support for you is required to be able to follow your passion, right? Like you said, like if you had a family to support and like you had to pay for daycare and all this stuff, yeah, you'd never be able to like fully just throw in 100% and follow that passion. You'd always have it in the back of your head, like, man, like, am I doing the right thing? Like, I should really just, go work at a corporate firm and make money and stifle your passion, right?
Well, I'll say this. For me, when I was in Regina, the most motivated I ever was to make Dota Logic be a thing was when I was selling cell phones. Because I was like, this is...
Because you hated it.
Well, it was like, it wasn't a lot of money. And it was like, I'm clearly better at this other thing. And then there was a guy by the name of Josh Dushin that ran the business end of Dota Logic, and he was like fully on board. He's like, yeah, we need to get this to a point where like you're solely doing Dota Logic. But then I turned 30. I moved to Vancouver when I was 30. So like that's a little bit late in the game. And then I want to say like 3 years later or 2 years later, we had June. So then at that point it was like,
you're fine.
Yeah, like, well, I mean, you're the grind that I had from like 26 to 30 is different than the way that I grind now.
Yeah. I mean, I do think it takes a special kind of person, right? Like for Kevin to completely just leave this like high paying job. I honestly never ever asked him, or never ever like even would fathom that was a thing. I just thought I was like some fucking idiot who like didn't know any better than to just do what he loved. Because I like A, didn't really care, and B, didn't really have any responsibilities. So what else am I doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was pretty cool.
That's Kevin. That's the guy that worries about a car crash when it happens.
After it happens. Exactly.
Yes, it made sense, right? Yo, fuck this job.
That's exactly it. That's like Kevin's answer to the trailer question is the perfect like segue to like risk taking and like how we get to this. Is like, yep, that makes total sense. All right, I don't know. I feel like I covered a lot of ground and insightful things. Do you guys have anything you want to add? What do you?
We went around the whole world.
Fucking.
I mean, the steering wheel sold.
We said that last time.
Oh, we did. Okay.
We did. The steering wheel is sold. So that is that episode of the SerialPodcastNine. Feel like we got a little deep. Gerard got a little wise, blacked out with wisdom, and then he came back, to just being regular Gerard. And yeah. Anyway, maybe not as goofy as our other ones. Well, we'll see how this plays, huh? Let's see how genuine plays on the old radio shtick. Anyway, so thanks to everyone for tuning in, and yeah, we'll be back. And Kevin,
yeah, thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.
Glad to be with you in the new year.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, y'all.
It's over now, but yeah, good.
Well, we still gotta say Happy New Year because this is gonna go just in the New Year.
This will be the first one after the New Year.
Oh yeah, Happy New Year is a big one for us. We gotta say Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
Whatever, buddy. Fuck you. Not Happy New Year to you.
Yeah, fuck me. Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to Serial Podcast 9.